All right. Good stuff. You youths that are here today, I'm going to have fun with the sermon. Our third Sunday, we're trying it fourth Sunday. We're moving to the third Sunday. We're going to do fifth Sundays with our Dig In Children's Church. We're just trying to continually be a family church, a church that is aware of everybody else in some capacity. So third Sundays, we're going to do youth. You notice Natalie. Our goal is hopefully we just get all of the youth up here leading worship of a Sunday. But I think especially those of you guys that are here today and all of you that are not so young anymore, you'll appreciate the lesson in today's sermon. Okay. A quick review of Martyrs and Mercies. Let's go to the next one, Jenna. We'll just jump right into the nuggets, right? A martyr is a witness. Don't be such a martyr, but in the biblical word of a martyr as a witness, who will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth? Witnesses, we're celebrating sacrifice. What is it you're willing to sacrifice? And people will see that by your sacrifice, the greater witness. We all want to do something successful, but that's not really where the witness shines. The witness shines in the things that you face, and you remain faithful to go through them. We've had some really good testimonies. Notice I've been sprinkling in the witnesses, the testimonies of others, be it Michael's sacrifice for the fire and all the things God put in place for him to save baby Ada. I appreciate Gabby giving her testimony at the revival. Jill came back and gave more her story at the revival. I appreciate Dylan on the Sunday of Communion talking about fasting. I mean, what a great testimony to make a commitment with a friend and to share that spiritual space. In contrast to, but in harmony with, this communion, in which is a great sacrifice for us as a church. Believe it or not, communion is you making the sacrifice to be here, but it's not a sacrifice to you. Hopefully you feel like you are doing something sacred, right? So what communion is, the community of God coming into the presence of Jesus, being intentional about it, and people that know you're willing to make this commitment is special. And I share with you the space of the church is that training space, and then we empower you to go and serve. And this today is going to be a next level of character in our youth. We're going to talk about what it means for our young people to be a part of this story as well. So here's where we're going to have some fun. You guys ready? There's division everywhere. There's division in race, politics, gender ideology, financial demographics, but probably the greatest division in our society that we sort of talk about but we don't is through generational divides. A generation divide is when we can't agree with people who are about 20 years our difference, 10 to 20 years. So you go 20 years older, 20 years younger, and those people don't get it. So young people, they don't appreciate old people. Has anybody had a young person say, okay, boomer, don't be such a Karen? It's so hurtful. It's so hurtful. And then older generations, I get it, we struggle with technology. Younger generations struggle with people. Talking to people. Here, I played this out. This is great. So our kids being younger than us, obviously by 20-some years, we went to Taco Bell. Has anybody been to Taco Bell in a while? It's a delightful experience. I'd rather wake up with my head stapled to the carpet. You know that quote, you watch too many movies. So we go. Me and Tara, and she was children's church, so I probably shared this in light, but it just came in full view this week when I was planning for this sermon. We go to Taco Bell with Drew and Becca, and as soon as we walk in, they now say, order at the kiosk. My wife became a Karen. She was not having it. So, no. She turns around to the lady behind the counter, and have you had this moment where apparently the cash register is now radioactive because there's somebody standing behind the register, and she looks at my wife and Tara goes, can you take my order? Can you take my order? Yes, you. I'm looking at you. And they're like, I can't touch this thing. If I do, it'll go off. You have to order the kiosk, man. You have to order the kiosk. And my wife's going, you're right there. Can you take my order? And no lie, even somebody in the first service said this. They're like, I'm not trained. Then why do you work here? You can't run a register. I don't know how to run a register. Drew and Becca are losing their minds. Like, they're the younger generation. They're like, just order the kiosk. Just order the kiosk. And Drew's like he's like a professional. He must go to Taco Bell line. He's like, he's working. He's getting the extra sour cream everybody's ordering. Me and Tara are standing there like we're just dinosaurs. We're like, we're going to starve. It's bad.
And then they wanted a tip.
Preach. But Jamie, Natalie right here, she just whispered, Karen. I laugh. We haven't really done this space. And I laugh because I'm like, my daughter still has a hard time ordering more drink. Like, you got to talk to humans. And so we have these back and forth, right? I'll give you another generational divide. If I were to say, pick up your imaginary phone and talk on it, what would you do? Natalie, go. Talk on your imaginary phone. Oh, you are good. Anybody else? I asked Liam, my nephew staying with us this weekend, I said, pick up and talk on your imaginary phone. He goes like this. I go, what do you hold, a brick? What is it? He's like, that's my phone. First of all, my young people would never do this, right? They do this. Talk. Who uses it for a phone anymore, right? Everything's this way. I have had a lot of fun with talking about our different generations, and I have a whole series of phones. The bag phone. Anybody here have a rotary phone? Anybody a rotary phone person? Can we go back? Here's a really far back. Anybody have a party line? Brett's like, I'm just going to admit this. Yes, we had a party line. The game, by the way, the game telephone was sort of out of that because if you were good enough, you could lift up and listen in to your neighbor's conversations. It wasn't your ring. But you could pick it up. It was a party line. It went from your house to their house. So 10 houses were on one line, just depending on the ring, and all your neighbors could listen into your conversations. To now, we have cell phones, and I share about I've got a bag phone, and I've got a walkie-talkie phone, and a Nokia phone, and technology keeps getting better, but of course I joke we don't even use them for phones anymore. I also asked this about pizza. Who calls Casey's to order your pizza? Who calls? All right, raise your hand if you order on the app. Man, you guys are so young. You're so hip. I was joking with my son. You've heard me talk about the dating game. And I said something really stupid. I didn't think it was that stupid. I said, well, back in my day, if you wanted to go out with somebody, you show up when they're getting off work, you have flowers, you're like, hey, I want to pick you up at 7 tonight. You want to go out? He says, that would be you're a stalker, Dad. That's not how they do it. I said, how do they do it now? And he's like, well, you swipe left, you swipe right, and then you look at the profile, and then you snoop and find out who they are, where they're from, what their jobs are, and then you see if they want to meet, and then you separately meet up. I said, you don't pick her up? Oh my goodness, no. You pick a girl up on the first date? Yeah, they think you're going to murder. You're one of those people. I'm like, the world is going mad. I'm like, well, you got to be kidding me. That's the different generations, isn't it? Here's what I want to explain this morning, and we're going to use one verse to do it. Generations in biblical terms is crucial. And so while the world is mad that the elderly don't drive right? Or they don't understand technology and they can't use the app and they're slowing down the register. Heaven forbid they write a check at the register. And younger people just don't get it. They don't know how to relate to people. As a church, one of our greatest witnesses and sacrificial, that we're willing to make the sacrifice when we're older to understand and work with the young, or if we're young, to be mentored by those who have gone before us. That is the witness of Jesus being handed down from the first disciples all the way through to today. And that connectivity has never been broken. Now catch that. Religions have come and gone. Great kingdoms have come and gone because they lost the thread of connectivity. The kingdom of God through the life, the death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ from the first disciples still exists today. Somebody handed it to you, and if you're part of the older generation, we are now commended to hand it down. Now, if you're one of the young people here today, I want you to read this verse. I want you to memorize it. 1 Timothy 4:12. So 1 Timothy 4:12. Jenna, I need my verse. Yeah, whatever. Her and Malia are having their conversation back there about Jenna was in my first service, and she doesn't like what I'm going to compare here in a minute. She didn't think it stood up. Don't show it yet. Let me read it. So here's the verse I want. So Malia, you're going to memorize this, right? Allie, you're going to memorize this. Do not let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers. Now, this is really important. Do not let people look down on you because you're young. But you, young people, set an example for the believers. Now, this is really a challenge because I think more and more we've made our young people younger. You're 25 and you don't want to do adulting, right? We got to get our kids to realize it's an ownership of your faith. That you can set an example for the believers. You don't have to let the adult people do church and do faith. You can do it. And by doing it, I want you to challenge yourself to do this in speech and conduct and love and faith and in purity. Now, I had this verse in mind, but then I realized it didn't speak to the Gen Z. So I looked up on ChatGPT. I said to ChatGPT, if you saw my Facebook, you already know this verse is coming. I said, please translate 1 Timothy 4:12 as if a Gen Zer, in Gen Z. And here's the verse that they gave me. Don't let anyone think you are sus because you're not as old as Unc. Show them what's up by being unbundled in your faith, staying chill, and being real in your vibes and what you say and how you treat your bae. I texted Josiah and I go, what does this even mean? I don't even know. What's a bae? He's like, your bae or your boo. And I'm like, no, I have no idea. And did you pick her up after work bringing flowers, I'll never I just laughed. I thought this is a great verse. And yes, we're having some fun with it, but really, by the way, does everybody know what these words mean? I asked Jen, I go, what's sus? Suspicious, right? We got that. Don't let anyone think you're suspicious, right? Because you're not as old as Uncle. All right, we all speak Gen Z in some way. I guess you guys are hip. Show them what's up by being unbundled in your faith. I'm like, okay, staying chill and being real in your vibes. What? Apparently your conduct and what you say and how you treat your bae. And of course, bae being a term for somebody you're dating or you're part or whatever. So I'm like, okay, now I'm all caught up. Here's what I want to share about Timothy. This is where we're going to share the space. Paul and Timothy. Paul writes this to Timothy after he has sent him to Ephesus. So let me say this again. Timothy is not one of the first disciples. Paul he's received the gospel from Jesus himself, catches him on the road to Damascus. He goes around, it's his first missionary journey, and he visits Lystra. He plants a church, meets Christians, and then he actually meets Timothy's grandma, his mom, his family. They become Christians, and Paul has an affinity to Timothy, who seems to catch this. In fact, 1 Timothy 4:13, Paul tells him, remember when we prayed over you, when we ordained you, and the elders blessed you and prophesied over you, and you received gifts. These are your gifts. You are now empowered to go share the gospel in the churches. Now, what is Paul sending him to? He's sending him to Ephesus. The first letter of Timothy is to Timothy from Paul, mentor to mentee. And Timothy is in Ephesus. And what is he doing in Ephesus? The Ephesus church has lost their mind. So Paul is sending Timothy in to the mouths of those who are hungry for heresy. Now think about that. You've been blessed, Timothy. We'll see you later. By the way, anybody have parents that did that? That's how they raised you? They would send you into the fire? Like, just go? 9 a.m. in the morning, my brother and I made any kind of peep or noise, and we were kicked out of the house until dinner. No Life 360. Parents never knew where we were. I don't think they cared. Right? Different generation. Becca calls me from Allie's house 2 blocks away. It's by the Catholic school. And she says, can you come pick me up? She's 14. And I can pick you up. Where are you? She says, I'm at Allie's. I'm like, can you walk home? It's dark, Dad. I can get mugged. What? Are you just okay? A little different generation nowadays, isn't it? Right? You get sent out, and you're supposed to figure it. Now, this is what I want to really capitalize on this morning. Folks, we try to calm the chaos in the world for our kids instead of making our kids stronger to handle the chaos in the world. We are not creating resiliency in young people today when we coddle them, cater to them. Now, I get it. You know, I think it's fair that if they fell off and you think they've got a concussion, you don't just put a Band-Aid on it and move on. Rub dirt on it. Dirt's always the solution, isn't it? I have this, and I have the wrong spirit in this. Again, I joked last week we had the St. Pat's game, the 4th grade basketball, and Bentley is playing the game. And St. Pat's, by the way, you guys know St. Pat's, right? They pay their players, okay? Just so we have that cleared out. I'm just kidding. They don't look like they're 4th graders. I'm not lying. So one kid is like 40 pounds bigger than Bentley, and he has the ball, and Bentley is an aggressive little guy, and he grabs the ball, and so they're tied up together, and the bigger kid just sort of goes, and Bentley's feet flip upside down, and his head and shoulders go right into the ground. The whole place goes, "Arr!" And then this follows. They can't do that! And I said at the same time, let go of the ball! We have wrong perspectives. Clearly we're on the same page. To me, I'm like, if you're 40 pounds, let go of the ball! Like, in other words, I'm yelling at Bentley. Why? I'm like, Bentley, if we try to fix the game so the bigger kid doesn't hurt your feelings or your head, we're going the wrong. Let's coach up our kids with resiliency. You're going to play bigger kids. Maybe when they lift you off the ground, that's the sign. I should let go of the ball. He couldn't help himself. This is the difference that we have today than Paul was experiencing with Timothy. Paul says, you're ready, even though you're not ready. I need to send you into the fire. You know what the fire is? You're going to go back to one of the churches I planted. That church is messed up right now. Let me give you some of the things they're arguing about. You can read 1 Timothy if you like. It's a devotion. It's a great, easy read. It's, just a handful of chapters to go through. In chapter 2, Timothy says, you're going to deal with angry men. There are men there who are heretical, and they're preaching against the way Jesus presented the gospel to me, and as I've been presenting to others, they're sort of manipulating it, and they're twisting it. You're going to have to correct bad theology. They're talking about how you shouldn't eat meat. It's like that. Jesus didn't say you couldn't eat meat. Then they were saying you can't get married. Jesus didn't say you can't get married. And you're going to deal with some women there. And Paul was challenging Timothy, when you get there, there's wealthy women who are also widows. But that's different than the widows who are marginalized and poor and impoverished. So all of them were coming to the distribution of food from the church. But Paul is telling Timothy, you've got some of those widows who are going out, and they are, just to be blunt, sleeping around, and so they're doing whatever they want with whomever they want, and then they're coming to the church, and they have money, and they have prominence, and they have position, and they're shutting out the marginalized widows. He's like, you're going to have to deal with that. You're going to have to deal with the caring of widows, you're going to have to deal with those men, and you're going to have to deal with the false teaching. Now, you and I would look at that and go, how can young people do that? And I look at it and go, why aren't we raising up young people who are so confident that they can speak into even those twice their age to tell them about their faith? Paul believed in Timothy. We should believe in our young people. But young people, you've got to set an example. You can't hide in the shadows. You can't let mom and dad be the parents and the spiritual parents. The elder, when I was a child, I was in junior high, who looked at me and said, there are no grandkids in heaven. What a great line for me. I had always done what I thought was good for a pastor's kid. As long as my parents were good with God, I was good with God. And then I got old enough, and he was pointing me out saying, you need to start acting like it. You need to be an example. And what is the example you're supposed to set? In faith, in conduct, in speech, in love, and in purity. Now, I'm going to give you the tools for this real quick. So let's just do, for a few minutes, what that looks like. Here's your list. It got all whacked out on the transfer over from Google Slides, the PowerPoint. But if you're young here today, here's one thing I want you to find strong mentors. I see too often, you guys remember the whole respect your elders thing. That's really a challenge. It's something of the past. And parents, we've created that. When we walk into a classroom and tell the teacher, hey, my student didn't miss the assignment, my student didn't do it wrong, you're a bad teacher, you've done something. No, we've spun there, right? Like, my dad took me in and he said, hey, you apologize to the teacher and you make this right. I'm like, okay. When I got bad grades, the teacher get in trouble, I got in trouble. We spun that. For young people, we set the tone with them to say, then we don't have respect for our elders, the people who know more than us. So young people, don't go into school, high school, don't go leaning back, Natalie, with the teachers and be like, you're doing it to me right now. Right now, she's going, I dare you to impress me. I dare you to say something that makes sense to me. No, I'm just kidding. It's a little cool here, too. How many of you know what I'm talking about? I dare you to impress me. I dare you to say, I walk in late to the class, I can't wait, I'm closing up books early, right? I don't think we have enough mentors, and it can't just be your parents. You need people outside of yourself. I joked with the first service, one of my favorite memories in college. I went to college as a 17-year-old. I was young for my age, so I'm young, and we play basketball, and I'm playing against the 20-year-olds, right? And I'm still not really, I'm not fully developed. We start working out, and the weightlifting coach put on 225 and said, show me how many reps. We lifted it off, and it crashed on my chest, and for a week I had this big red bruise. He's like, I just thought you could lift more than that. I'm like, I've never worked out in my life. I never lifted weights. I just was, a stocky kid, and bam! I'm 17 going, I am in for this. This is not... On that team, we had Doug. Doug was 24 years old. Doug went into the military, got out of the military, wanted to come back and play basketball. So he's on the team. He's married. Does everybody want to know what I asked him about? A lot. What is it like to be married? And he's like, it's great. And then we're finally just, we're on a bus drive, and I'm just asking him, like, so you can do it whenever? And he's like, yeah, Ryan, we can. And I'm like, and it's not wrong? He's like, no, I don't think it's wrong. It's pretty right. I mean, I was so baffled. I was just amazed at the conversation about, and so here's the mentor. He also talked to us about how he valued faith in his marriage, being newlyweds. He and his wife took some of us players to their church. I was profoundly impressed that somebody filled the gap, right? It was my parents, way old, and there was nobody else that I saw as a religious example. And here was this 24-year-old who's like, yeah, man, you can, someday when it's the right person, you get married, you can live your faith, you can keep growing in the Word, keep sharing an example of faith. So those of you here, you need those mentors that will be honest with you about life. Young people especially, I encourage you to this, start doing, stop waiting. How many of you are just always in the shadows of stuff going on? You're like, little examples. Are you willing to pray for people? Are you willing to stop and pray for people? Are you willing to put yourself out there? I told the Chaos group, I said, you start wanting it more than I want it for you, and I will be your biggest cheerleader. But we can't start a movement for our young people who are going to be passively waiting for somebody else to make it happen. You've got to start doing it. My dad left the Methodist church and planted a church. And I went to him and I said, I miss my youth group. And he said, you want a youth group? You make one. So I got my buddies and friends together. And I'm like, let's do some stuff. Let's get into the Bible study. I don't want to just go to the adult Sunday school class all the time. I want to, learn with my friends. Start doing. Because when you do that, you'll be an example. Now, older folks, the elders here, you got to stop complaining about the young people. That's not the church. I don't mind gabbling sarcasm, but trust me, they hear it. And the place they should hear it the least is the church. The church has to be the mentors. And I got really good news for you, because you're like, it's hard to be a mentor. You want to know what the next one is? Stop doing. Stop doing and start mentoring. Too many of the older generation can't give it up the ministries of the church, let alone other aspects in our lives. If you're a better mentor, you're actually doing less because you're encouraging young people to do more. And I think the church can lead in this space far better than the secular culture. Because we are the cloud of witnesses, right? Go back to Hebrews chapter 11. We're the cloud of witnesses cheering them on. Excited to see them grow up. And we're not telling the mountains to be smaller, we're telling the young people to be better climbers. How great is that? The church believes that the one that is in you is greater than the one that is in the world. So let's fan that flame. Let's challenge them. Now, we have to challenge them well. We have to hold young people accountable to believe that they can do more. Paul did not send Timothy and then coddle him. He sent Timothy and then he challenged him. He said, be ready for this. It's going to come at you. But when it does, you're ready for it. Let's go ahead and close with the final lesson from Timothy. I hear too many people say this first statement, you are better when you are true to yourself. But if you don't know Jesus, you don't know how to be true to yourself because he's the one that created you. Right? Go to Colossians 1. Through him all things are made. You are made imago Dei, or better image bearer than the flesh of God. So to be better, you have to be true to yourself. To be true to yourself, you have to be true to God. And how are you true to God? Now here, let's redefine 1 Timothy 4:12 to be examples in life and love and speech and in purity, right? Let me pick out all down. In faith and life and love and speech and purity. Life is the NIV, New Living Translation, conduct. Here's your lessons. And this is true for all of us. Be better examples in this, but try. Faith is believing in all things hoped for, certain of what we do not see. Try something new. Serve. I don't mean serve like at church, but I mean young people, when you go to a restaurant, hold the door open and let everybody go in front of you, even though it might delay you getting a table. Acknowledging everybody else. Speak the truth. What does speak the truth mean? I'm going to tell you something that I believe is true, and I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to pretend about it. I'm not just going to post it on social media. In real-time conversations, I'm going to stand up for what I believe in a loving way, right? To be kind. It doesn't say ignore the truth, speak the truth. And by the way, if you're a cynic when you speak the truth, it's because you're not being true to yourself. You've lost purity somewhere. You're only anxious and angry about it because you don't live it in your own life. When you are more honest with people about your speech, you will be true about it in purity. Those two are such a harmony. And when we can be mature believers, no matter what age you are, we are able to do this together. So I'm going to encourage you this week. Find a mentee. Pray for somebody. Text them and say, hey, I've been thinking about you. I don't fully understand your situation in life, but I want to know more, and I want to support you along the way. I told the first service, I'm going to reiterate it today. Everybody's about 20 years. I found out a few years ago, I'm sorry, Natalie, Jen, Malia, you guys, I'm old. I don't relate anymore. I don't even know what Unk is. Apparently I'm Unk. I'm Unk's dad, probably. That's how old I got. But I love pouring into the Dylans and the Alleys and the Aarons, right? I love the 30-somethings now. I remember very clearly, and I can help paint that picture. The 30s, reaching into the youth, speaking into that next generation. But don't leave here and not be thinking about somebody you want to pour your faith into, because we need that generation not to be the future of the church, but to be the presence of the church today. And young people, don't wait for you to get things figured out in 5 to 10 years. Let's have that revival start now. And you are